going to be why people hate Buckeye fans.
He wins. He was exactly right.
This is where I would disagree.
How could you disagree with
this? This is where I disagree a little bit. Because
goodness gracious.
I would admit that I was wrong. They are a better team than I thought, than I was giving them credit for. Despite Ohio State losing, I didn't feel like they were the worst team.
You're right. This is why we hate you. This is the Rivalry Podcast. We have also opted out of the Pop-Tarts Bowl. What a disaster. We'll talk about whether or not the College Football Playoff Committee got anything right on Sunday afternoon. We'll talk about Ohio State, Indiana, because this is an Ohio State, Michigan college football podcast. I'm Jace. That's JP. Michigan and Ohio State, the greatest rivalry in all of college football and all of sports. From River Radio Ministries, presented by our friends at Elevated Integrity Construction. Weekly podcast. We're now down to the end of the regular season through championship game weekend, recording on Monday morning, right after Selection Sunday. And if you're not already, would you go ahead, do us a favor, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. Go ahead and rate and review while you're there. And if you're on social media, we are too, at Rival Pod. And let me just pitch this real quick here. So Ohio State obviously headed to the Cotton Bowl. We'll talk about that quarterfinal round. We've got some postseason opportunities, but that's going to require folks like you being willing to support the podcast. So you can do that a couple different ways. You can go to rivalpod.com, click on support. You can buy yourself a custom Rival Pod t-shirt. We've got Michigan. We've got Ohio State. You can also just throw $10 our way one time and say, hey, thanks for what you do, and support that way as well. Thank you to our sponsors. We'll get to them later, but that's one of the best ways that you can help. If that's not in the wheelhouse for you, that's all right. Follow, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. Let's start off with our wheel route here from the Ohio Sinus Institute. And I mean, there's not really any other place for us to start but the college football playoff rankings.
Just got announced yesterday. Initial gut reaction, I already knew your thoughts, and I texted you this because the second this name got brought up, I knew that you immediately hated everything else that was said afterwards. But this is where we disagree. I think we'll agree on one part of it, but not the entire thing.
I think you're correct. So obviously the question was the way that things fell on Saturday essentially left two spots available for two of the three of Alabama, Miami, and Notre Dame. And there was the big question for a lot of people was Miami or Notre Dame. The consensus from at least the wider world of college football was, well, one of these teams is getting in, Alabama's safe. And how do you parse through head to head, but also how does Notre Dame, stay at 10 and Miami starts at 18 and they jump all the way through? And I think we're kind of asking the wrong question, if I'm being honest with you.
Okay.
I have no problem with Miami getting in over Notre Dame. Why? Because of head to head. Now, the head to head can't always win out, right? There's, are we going to put, you could walk down the line, right? If Georgia, I don't even have a good example, so I'm not going to try to. Head to head can't always win out, but if you had this head to head game, and I believe it was opening weekend. You have this head to head game, and the trajectories of these two teams stay about the same, right? It's not like Miami completely fell off a cliff and lost 4 games, and now we're comparing head to head and anything like that. These two teams stayed about the same. Their strength of record's about the same. Their FPI is about the same. Like all that stuff is about the same. So all other things are in fact pretty equal. The head to head's got to win out. Because if Miami Notre Dame had been played in early November instead of early September, that wouldn't have even been a discussion. So the games count the same in September, or they're supposed to. They count the same in September as they do in November. I have no issue with Miami getting the nod over Notre Dame. Here's where we're going to probably break stride. My issue is Alabama.
I knew it.
Over Notre Dame. Do you want to like before I jump into there's a little teaser for you. Would you agree on the Miami Notre Dame portion of that? Because I actually don't know if you agree with that or not.
Half. I think my biggest point with the whole entire bracket itself, and I said this last year, I would still stand on this hill, is I ultimately want the best 12 teams. And I think this year, more so than last year, proves my point even further, because you have these final 2 teams that get in, and I'm looking at them going, it's not, I don't want to watch that game.
You don't think James Madison has a shot in Outson?
I'm looking at James Madison, who's 20.5 point underdogs. I'm looking at Tulane, who's 17.5 point underdogs, going, who wants to watch that?
I mean, we do, because college football.
No, I'm not. I will want to watch it until about the first quarter when it's already 14-0 and it's very clear that one team is outmatched.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, and I know people are going to go, well, how do you've got to figure out a way to reward those teams because they had a heck of a season. So you can't just punish them by not including them and stuff like that. But nobody in their right mind is going to sit there and tell you that Tulane or JMU is better than a 3-loss Alabama team. And so while I agree with you in the sense of they should not have been the number 9 seed, they still were one of the top 12 teams in my mind in the country. So them being a part of it, I'm fine with. I think you should have had a Notre Dame take the place of a Tulane or a JMU.
So your issue is more the structure of having automatic G5 bids.
Yeah, to me, you saw it last year.
Because you hate the little guy. Well, I just want to make that.
Look, here's
all
the realistic.
3 Tulane fans that subscribe to this podcast are very upset right now.
Come at me, bro.
Those kids can read. They'd be very upset.
I think my wife calls their team the Christmas trees, and she was trying to explain it to me this weekend. She thinks the green wave, the logo looks like a Christmas tree to her. And
I can kind of see it.
So when she was trying to talk college football with me this weekend, she kept saying, "Did the Christmas trees get in?" And I was like, "Stanford? No,
they didn't.
No, they didn't." And then it hit me. She was talking about Tulane.
Amazing.
But I think you saw that last year. You might, and it's gonna happen because that's just the way the world works. You're gonna have a season where a JMU or a Tulane upsets the first round.
At some point,
inevitably, it's gonna happen. But the chances of one of those teams ever actually pulling it off, getting all the way, being competitive the whole entire way through, I just don't see it happening.
But I think you have to, I do think for the good of, and I think you could restructure, is it the 5 highest ranked conference? Like you could restructure how that works. I do think you need a G5 automatic qualifier in some way for these mid-major programs to be able to, like, for it to work. Like, I think it dramatically hurts college football if you don't have, an opportunity for a James Madison or a Tulane or a, Hawaii in their 12-0 season, right? To not have that opportunity to get into a playoff. You don't have to have more than one spot. It just kind of happened to work out that way because the ACC is garbage.
But I think and I get that, but I just think looking at the first slate of games, when 2 of those 4 games are by 17.5 or more points, would I rather watch a team like that, or would I rather see a Notre Dame go in there against an Ole Miss?
Well, there's no question about would Notre Dame. I mean, obviously, I'm arguing for Notre Dame, and as a Michigan fan, I hate everything about that. But there's no question Notre Dame Ole Miss would have been a better game. But it's the playoffs. If it's, I think this is dangerous because if it gets into, well, what's the better matchup for TV ratings, then Michigan may as well be in there. Well, Texas may as well be in there.
And I would argue both of those would be better choices.
And then we may as well, for the next 20 years, go ahead and set the playoff field now of the biggest brand names and just let them battle it out every year regardless. I don't even
think that's the issue. I think the issue, and this is where I think you and I kind of agree on this, 12 teams is just too many.
Well, correct. Yes.
To me,
there are not 12 teams that need to be in the playoff. Sure.
10 would probably be my max.
I mean, I'm still a bit of a stickler on 4. I could go to 8. See, 8 is my max.
8 would be my max. 8 would be fine. Yeah. 10 I think is my max because I would be fine if you look at the top 10 for this bracket. I'm comfortable with all of those.
But at the same time, then you are still going to end up with, and I don't remember if it was Josh Pate or whoever was talking about this, but if you do that, you're going to have the same arguments from, okay, so the top 10 get in. 11 through 14 are going to make the same complaint. We had this when Florida State missed out on the playoff to Alabama in the 4 team. You expand this sucker to 24. Well, then we're going to be talking about, well, Duke is the best 5-loss team in the country and should get a chance to.
Well, that guy was outrageous.
Like there's eventually.
Manny was outrageous.
So I mean, I do agree. We at least can agree on there's too many teams in.
Yeah.
I want to circle back though at this point. So I think we both agree that Miami over Notre Dame is the right choice.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Notre Dame fans are going to be upset about it, whatever.
You should win the game.
Yeah.
Here's where I'm going to go to bat for Notre Dame. I'm going to hold my nose while I do it. My gripe is not Miami. My gripe is Alabama. And here's why. I've got many problems with you people, and you're going to hear about it. Alabama, in last week's rankings, inexplicably jumped Notre Dame. That's where this starts. Mm-hmm. Where Notre Dame had beaten Stanford by 107 points. Alabama scuffled their way past Auburn, a not very good Auburn team, by the way.
No, but it was a rivalry game. I mean, next to Michigan, though. I mean,
fine, but you're telling me that Alabama should have jumped Notre Dame for that performance?
No, I'm more so making a comment on you kind of downplaying that they were in a close game and a rivalry game, because we've talked all season long about
have any problem with
throwing those out the window because it's always going to be contested.
I don't have any problem with it being a close rivalry game. I have a big problem with it being, and we watched that performance and thought, yep, that's a better team than Notre Dame.
With that. I would agree with that.
For me, that's where this problem starts. That was inexplicable in last week's rankings. And now Alabama goes into the championship game and gets the hinges blown off by Georgia. The argument that I've heard, and I understand it to an extent, is, well, you can't be punished for playing an extra data point. You can't be punished for playing in a game that other teams didn't qualify for or don't have a conference to join. You can't be punished for that. And I would say, sure, unless you get the hinges blown off you. Mm-hmm. Because if we're going to make the argument that in no situation can you be punished for playing in a championship game, BYU would like a word. BYU's not going to the playoff.
And they
shouldn't. You know why? Because BYU has 2 losses. The second one was in a conference championship game, and they got the hinges blown off them. So if we're going to say, well, Alabama can't drop because it was an extra game, so you're telling me if BYU hadn't qualified, BYU'd be in the playoff then? I don't buy that for a second. So if we're going to do this, and this is the real problem with the committee, is consistency. There's no consistency here. If the argument is you can't be punished if you're blown out, then BYU should be in the playoff. That's obviously not going to happen.
And I'd have been fine with BYU over Tulane or JMU.
And that's a. I mean, would it be a better game? Yes, but that goes back to the whole other discussion. Here's my thing. If you're Alabama and you want to prove that you are playoff worthy, you got your opportunity and you lost. And not just lost, you looked terrible. Alabama rushed for -3 yards. You and I had more statistical stats.
Stats are stats. We've often said.
Everyone watching this podcast or listening to this podcast had more rushing yards than playoff Alabama on Saturday.
Unless you happen to be an Alabama football player watching this, and which in fact you did not have as many rushing yards as us.
And let's not forget, Alabama also had a home field loss to another playoff team in Oklahoma already.
That's their first round matchup.
And on top of that, let's not forget, because apparently week 1 games matter, which yes, they should, got manhandled by an awful Florida State team. Mm-hmm. So from the inexplicable jump over Notre Dame to the lack of consistency about what can happen in a conference championship game, it boggles my mind. And if I'm Notre Dame, I think you're mad at the wrong team. If you're mad at Miami, you're mad at the wrong team. Mm-hmm. If you're mad at the committee, that's, obviously correct. It makes no sense. And I'm frustrated with it because, again, I don't even know if I have a good solution for, well, how should you handle conference championship games? Most of the time I would say, again, you should not be punished for playing that extra game. But it begs the question, how many points did Alabama need to lose by to be punished in that game? If they got blown out 56-0, is that enough? Where's the line there? And the problem is, and this has been well-versed from national media folks, which obviously we're not, but if the national media folks have even picked up on this too and said, this doesn't feel like the committee follows their own criteria. And that has been the case forever. I don't like the advocacy to go back to the BCS model or anything like that. But there has got to be, I reference Klatt a lot because Klatt is one of the guys that I respect a lot here. Disagreed with him on his podcast this week because he was like, no, this is everything's fine. I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
But he had mentioned you need to rank the criteria so that we can understand what holds the most weight here, because it's just kind of And that's the big problem, is the inconsistency. I do not feel bad for any 3-loss team getting left out of the college football playoff. Alabama does not deserve to be in that field.
I think it's a different question from whether they deserve to or should they. Because, I would still stand on the hill that they are one of the 12 best teams in the nation. I know that's not how it's set up. They can't run the
football.
But they're still one of the best. They had one of the toughest schedules in the nation. The Georgia team that they just got blown out by, they beat earlier in the year. I mean, they've got the talent. I've said it numerous times, and maybe this is just me dying on the hill that I still think that they're a really, really good team. But the playoffs to me should be a thing where I'm looking at the game slates for the weekend and every single one feels like a home run, even the very first opening weekend. And when I see two teams that are 17.5 or more underdogs, I'm going to watch it because I'm a college football geek, but I'm not going to be happy about it when it becomes a boring game and it's 28-7 or whatever, like what we saw Texas Tech versus BYU and those kind of games where it's not this highly contested thing and there's a clear talent gap. I get that it's rewarding to those teams that have these phenomenal seasons, but what does it really do? Does it really enhance the game when you're trying? To me, that's the stage where you should be showcasing the best talent in your sport. And JMU, and I would be fine. I could probably even make the argument for a team outside of Alabama to be included in that. I'm not even going to sit there and absolutely die on the hill that Alabama should be in there.
You're more focused on the G5 taking spots that you don't think they deserve from the structural standpoint, more so than what I'm ticked off about in Alabama.
And I think I'm looking at this going, okay, I could see a Vanderbilt going in over in Alabama. I could see Vanderbilt going in over JMU and Tulane. I can see Notre Dame going in over any of those teams. I could probably make a case for another team that could have taken Alabama out of that slot. I would be fine with that. My biggest gripe with the rankings yesterday, and I don't know if there really is a fix to it, is literally those G5 teams. I said it all last season when you had SMU going and playing on the road at Penn State.
Well, SMU is a Power 5 team or a Power 4 team.
Well, but every single person knew that SMU was going to get blown out. I got you. Some of those lower seeds that get in there where I'm looking at this going, I don't...
Are there and this is the area that we, again, to come back to it, that we do actually agree on, which is 12 teams is too many.
Oh, 100%.
You don't need 12 teams to be in that playoff.
Boise was one last year where they got the first round bye, and I went, really? I understand what they did. I understood what JT was as a player. I don't think a single person outside of Boise, Idaho thought they had a chance in that game, and it showed. And so that was my biggest gripe yesterday walking out of that is there's clearly a flaw in the system. We differ a little bit on what that flaw is. To me, I just want the 12 best teams. I want to sit down that first weekend of college football and be excited for stacked games. And the first weekend, it's 50% to me.
And I think that from a watchability standpoint is fair. Yeah, I just think we're not looking at watchability necessarily. And again, I'll finish just by saying, like, if Alabama were called any other name, they wouldn't have got in. If what happened, again, if Alabama were BYU,
look at a team like Vandy.
If the Alabama logo were replaced by BYU's logo, right? To use the analogy from when trying to respect Indiana, which we'll get to here in a second. If Alabama were named BYU, they wouldn't have made the field. And you know how I know that? Because BYU got blown out in a championship game and didn't make the field with more wins than Alabama has.
Can we touch very briefly? This is straying away from the college football playoffs, but it was because of the rankings that this started to kind of trickle down of these teams opting out of bowl games. I forget who the very first one, Kansas State, I think, was the very first one that as a team decided they wanted to opt out. Thank you. I didn't want to watch Avery Johnson throw another pass anyways. That one I ain't mad at.
I think Iowa State did too, right?
Yeah, Rutgers did.
Remember when in Ireland that was like a premier matchup? Iowa State, Kansas State. No, both of them were like, horrible. We don't want to do this.
But then immediately after the rankings came out, the 12 teams were announced. Notre Dame came out with a statement basically saying we will not be playing in a bowl game. We want to remove our name from consideration.
Because they were going to play in the Pop-Tart Bowl against BYU.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on just that as a whole? Not just Notre Dame specific, but just the way college football is, because you and I growing up, bowl games still meant something. And we've talked about this, I think, last season as well. What are your thoughts on teams actually choosing to opt out of bowl games now?
I think it's ridiculous.
Good. I'm glad we're saying here.
What's weird is that, like, I feel different when we're talking about individual players.
For sure.
Than I do about teams. I don't understand. And if this sounds like, hey, I've heard this, but because I think this is the general consensus. I don't understand how you are turning down the opportunity to play more football.
Nope.
I don't understand
for hardware.
I don't understand how you're turning down the opportunity to have 15 additional practices or whatever it is. So take a team like Notre Dame. You're telling me that CJ Carr couldn't benefit from, again, he's a very good quarterback, but you're going to tell me he wouldn't benefit from 15 additional practices and playing against a good, still a good BYU team? Like, I just that doesn't make sense to me. If you're a team like Rutgers, how in the world do you not want to go play more football? You're telling me that you couldn't use a little extra practice there? I don't get that.
And here's my thing, because I would agree, but still somewhat disagree with what you said.
And also, and then you can go, but like also like just from I get the games don't matter. I understand, we'll get to Michigan drawing Texas in the Citrus Bowl. I get that the Citrus Bowl doesn't really matter. But why would you not go play that? And why would you deprive your student athletes of the experience of going to go, play a bowl game? I know Bahamas Bowl is, defunct now, but hey, but just that bowl game experience. Why would you take that away? I don't get that.
Yeah.
I don't get that.
I agree, but I would say that the games still do matter. They should, at least. If you're a competitor of any kind, any level, they should absolutely matter. I don't think, just the way college football is nowadays, you wouldn't see a CJ Carr. You're not going to probably see Manning. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
It honestly would not surprise me if you didn't see Underwood.
We'll get to that.
And I understand it from that perspective, because if you're one of these head coaches trying to run this program, you've got this young talent that's a starter that has all this potential. The game doesn't really mean anything, but so you don't want to risk an injury that could keep them out to the start of the next year. I totally get that side of things. But to me, what bowl games have become is basically a glorified spring game with a chance for you to get some hardware after. So it still matters in the sense of there's still something to play for. There's still a little bit of pride in it. And to me, it's a great example and a great setting for you to get some of those young guys in that didn't see the field much, to get meaningful minutes against really good opponents in a game with some competitiveness to actually matter. You can have guys like, if you're Ohio State, let's say Ohio State was in this situation and they were getting ready to go into a bowl game. They lost 3 games or 4 games or whatever, and we're playing in a random bowl game. You're probably not going to see Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate or any of those guys, but give me guys like Quincy Porter, give me Mylan Graham, give me Isaiah West, give me some of these guys that need some of these reps that we didn't get a chance to get in the regular season, to be able to go in and get that experience, to me, is just insane. And Rutgers is another one that I was disgusted by, because they were playing like Georgia Southern, which was a very winnable game. Yeah. And I wouldn't have expected to see Kaliak Manis or KJ Duff or any of these guys. But to be able to go out there with a program that you were 5-7 this year. Yeah. And you're going to go and deny the chance to go and get better. Yeah. Notre Dame, I understood them trying to send a message. It was the softest thing I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. But I don't want to even hear Lou Holtz talk about a soft team ever. I
wonder where he is right now.
Who cares? Just the softness from these programs nowadays is astounding. Get your young guys in there. Get them the experience. Let the fans that spend their money to go and watch you play, give them one last game for the season to watch what they have coming up the next year. We know that you saw at Ohio State versus Missouri a couple of years ago when McCord and Harrison and all them sat out. It's not going to be the same team you saw in the regular season, but it's something that you can then look forward and go, oh, that guy's going to be great next year.
Someone had remarked, I don't even know if I can say this. This is still from a ministry. I'm going to say it anyway, and then I'll ask forgiveness later.
We'll bleep it out.
Someone had said, and I don't remember who it was, but they had said, how in the world could Notre Dame opt out of the Pop-Tart Bowl? It's literally like the death of a beloved figure rising back to life to nourish us. And that's all I'm going to say about that, because I don't think I'm allowed to say more than that. I thought it was pretty funny, though. Now, maybe though, you do feel a little bit like Marcus Freeman in Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm. I know that hurts you a little bit.
I mean, listen, I'm advocating for him, but listen, I'm a Michigan man too, okay? Like Notre, and then you decide to opt out. Instead of going to go smash an opponent, you said, we're going to take our ball and go home. Okay, so no, it doesn't hurt me all that much at all. Maybe you feel like Marcus Freeman in Notre Dame, where you're trying to build like a champion, but you might not know how to execute it, or you do, and the College Football Playoff Committee won't let you in because you're not Alabama. Aaron and the team at Elevated Integrity Construction have a winning pedigree and a team of All-Americans. They're a juggernaut of the industry, a dynasty of championship builders. If you have a home, church, or business build, go with the folks with integrity in their name. It's ElevatedIntegrity.com. As you hopefully know by now, the Rivalry is also a proud member of the Varsity Network, powered by Learfield again this season. It's the must-have app if you call yourself a college football fan, which hopefully you do. Otherwise, what are you doing here? Live broadcasts and on-demand podcasts just like this one from the Varsity Network. Find it in the App Store. It's free to download. Be sure to search for the Rivalry Podcast while you're there. We also want to say thanks to the Ohio Sinus Institute. You deserve better sinus care. Get relief from those experienced sinus specialists in Central Ohio, Dr. Boris Karanfilov, surgeon-led, personalized care with over 20 years of experience, minimally invasive in-office treatments, and on-site CT imaging for better answers. The Ohio Sinus Institute. Yes, I've had to practice his name more than Nico Iamaliava.
Honestly, you get it right every time, and it amazes me.
It's years of listen. It's
I don't give you a lot of compliments. That was one you should put in the back pocket.
It's years of watching hockey, man. That's what that is. The Rivalry Podcast also, by the way, proud to partner with our friends at Homage this season. If you are watching on YouTube, got on the Detroit crew neck Homage shirt today. So comfortable, you guys. Since 2007, Homage has been helping fans pay homage to the people, places, teams, and moments that matter most to them. They've got Buckeye gear. They've got Detroit sports gear. I was going to say, So you got Buckeye gear, Detroit gear, you've got pop culture stuff. Like, they've got everything. It's phenomenal. They are an amazing partner, quality craftsmanship, elite storytelling, and trademarked legendary comfort. As always, if you go in the podcast description, either where you're listening now or on YouTube, click the Homage link, get yourself something nice, maybe ahead of Christmas.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Going to be here before you know it. I need to get on that.
And not only will you get yourself something nice, but you will support the podcast as well. Because again, we got college football playoff stuff coming up. We're a very small budget podcast. So if you want to get yourself something in support, that helps. If you want to go to rivalpod.com, get yourself some Rival Pod merch. That helps as well. If you want to throw $5 our way and say, hey, keep doing what you're doing, you can do that at rivalpod.com as well.
I want to start this next segment off because I said I would do it, and I'm a man of my word. I said that if Indiana beat Ohio State, I would give them their credit. And
we have got so many people waiting for us.
And I want to preface this by saying I do have some very strong thoughts that I know you're going to consider it just me being a hater. And
I expect nothing
I'm
less.
going to be why people hate Buckeye fans in a moment.
Perfect. I will be the hater.
I will give credit because Indiana, some of the stuff that you saw Ohio State struggle with wasn't because Ohio State just wasn't doing it.
Yep.
It was completely because of what Indiana was able to do. And I don't want to share too many of my thoughts because we're going to get obviously into a breakdown of the game. Hats off to Indiana. Phenomenal game. Even if Ohio State would have won that game, they still proved something to me that they are now officially a threat to be taken seriously in the Big Ten. Cignetti absolutely proved himself. Mendoza continued to have a decent game. I don't think it was a home run by any means, but he stayed composed. The defense is as advertised. Yeah, and I think that was proven. So hats off to the Hoosiers. They did it. I mean, nothing else to say.
When Sig had his, the press conference where he did the classic, Purdue sucks, but so do Michigan and Ohio State, I laughed. Yeah. Because I went, my guy. Michigan had just come off a national championship, 3 Big Ten titles. Ohio State, even without, postseason success, continued to be Ohio State. And so a coach being hired at Indiana from James Madison, I went, how about we tone it back a bit? And he has been right. Not that Ohio State or Michigan are terrible programs, but after laughing when he made those statements, he earned it, and I'm not laughing anymore. Kurt Cignetti has been a phenomenal hire, and he deserves some apologies for all the Google me jokes that we've made over the years, because he wins. He was exactly right. Mm-hmm. There's so many different ways you could go in this game. Here's where I was maybe most impressed. Indiana's defense. Mm-hmm. I know that Mendoza and Hemby and the wide receiver, and they are going to get credit on this podcast. Don't get me wrong. They had a very good game. But as a Michigan guy, watching Michigan not affect Julian Sayin at all in the game, the frustration I felt watching him have clean pocket after clean pocket were guys that I thought should be able to get home, couldn't get anywhere close to him. And then to watch Indiana, who does have a very good defense, I mean, pressure him a ton of times, 5 sacks on the evening. I think that is as many, or just
they've only given up 6 the entire season.
Yeah. Basically doubled Ohio State's sacks allowed number in one evening. They were in his grill all day long, and on top of that, not just the pass rush, but that line held Ohio State to, I think, 58 net rushing yards. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is where this game was won, because again, we've seen Julian Sayin, and he still had a decent game, but we've seen Julian Sayin's efficiency and how he can pick you apart when he's got time. He still had a decent game, but he did not have time. They threw him off his rhythm. They were in his grill all night long. This is
where I would disagree.
How could you disagree with
this? This is where I disagree a little bit, because
goodness gracious. I'm going to take a drink of water.
There were a handful of times on some of those sacks where he held the ball too long. And that's not it's a credit to Indiana's defense still, because he held on to the ball a long time because when nobody open. So I don't want that to sound like I'm discrediting it, but that's where sacks came from. It wasn't like they were immediately there within a couple of seconds.
Sure they were. There were multiple times.
Sometimes, but not the ones that ended in sacks. Some of those sacks, there were 2 or 3 of those 5 sacks that, I mean, he had the ball for 6-7 seconds back there and just couldn't do anything. Nobody was open. As far as the run game goes, Bo Jackson had a decent day. I mean, you read the stat. It was 58 total yards, but that's total.
It was 80?
He had 83, 17 carries for 83 yards. I would take that.
Would you?
That's not a bad. Yeah. I mean, it was.
I don't know, man.
I would have loved 100 plus, but I don't think you'd said something. I forget. I think you were just talking about the sacks in general. To me, that's not where this game was lost.
Where would you say it was lost? Because
I mean, it's the thing we've talked about all year. It's the red zone efficiency, and I don't want to dive. I don't want to dive too much into this specific topic, because I do want to hit on this as an individual thing a little bit later. I thought you saw it rear its ugly head again. Ohio State had 4 red zone trips, so they walked away with 10 points. They did not score a point from the 10-minute mark of the second quarter. They were held scoreless. Ohio State had their chances. They had a missed field goal with 2 minutes and change to go that Jaden Fielding, who has been notorious for missing those. He missed the game a couple years ago in Georgia. Then
no. That wasn't him. That was Ruggles.
Oh, you're right. Then you had the Michigan game last year, and then you had this game where when the moment comes, he just can't be relied on.
Yeah.
And so you saw that happen. You saw the 4th and 1 play, which was a whole different thing for me, because you saw it so many times throughout the season. When they went to that package, Julian Sayin would get brought off the field and they would bring in Lincoln Kienholz. And I just don't physically understand, after watching Julian Sayin trying to do it against Michigan last week and it being an utter failure when it shouldn't have been. And you've not seen him really be successful with it all season long, which is why you put the Kienholz package in there.
Yeah.
Even if you're not going to ultimately run it with Kienholz, at least make the defense kind of have to play it. He's at least a bigger body. He's at least going to be a little tougher to take down.
In the Rutgers game, we talked about this leading into the Michigan game. There was this film candy, I think I called it, where it was, here's the Kienholz package. Oh, we're going to utilize him in the run. Oh, now we're going to throw the ball. And it was like, okay, well, no one's afraid of that.
I don't even think
it was almost like they were putting it on film for Michigan. They didn't use it. Here's a great opportunity to actually use this thing, and they went with Sayin. It just didn't make sense.
And I think there were numerous times in the red zone where you'd get down there and they'd take Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate both off the field for an extra tight end. And I'm sitting there going, what is this offense that I'm looking at? And you'd seen it rear its ugly head all game. And I said it, I don't remember after which game. And I said, this needs to be cleaned up because you can get away with not converting against some of these teams. Yeah. But when you play a tough team, they can't end in 3. And you saw that rear its head. I mean, 4 trips in the red zone, 10 points. Unacceptable for this.
You can't have that. Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it. I don't even know if I have anything further to say on that. I mean, Ohio State, the red zone is an issue. 4 of 12 on third down. Yep. 0 of 1 on fourth down, of course. Like there's the major difference. There's the major difference in the game is that Indiana could get Ohio State off the field.
Yeah.
And I agree with you on just about everything there. I appreciate it because obviously, but I don't understand how you're getting Carnell Tate or Jeremiah off the field in critical situations. And also even on like some of these calls down in the red zone. So I think it was the third down. You end up converting because Indiana got called for a low block. But okay, so it's third down. And instead of throwing to Jeremiah or to Carnell or whatever, they throw across the field to Brandon Innes. Then have them throw it all the way back across
for
the
6 yards,
and they get fortunate on a low block, and it keeps it going. But what is that? It's you're exactly right. This has creeped up for Ohio State for years. This goes, I mean, probably further than this, but it even goes back to the Notre Dame game in 20. Was it 23? Yeah, 23 when we were in South Bend for the Notre Dame game, and it's 4th and 1, and they go, we're going to run a jet sweep with Emeka. Why?
Yeah.
It's stuff like that. It's part of what's cost in Michigan games in the past. And it boggles the mind.
This is where I'm going to be the Buckeye fan that everybody hates.
Perfect.
And I think that's fine. Despite Ohio State losing, I didn't feel like they were the worst team.
You're right. This is why we hate you.
and I would truly believe that. And I don't want this to sound like all of a sudden I think Indiana's a bad team. I would admit that I was wrong. They are a better team than I thought, than I was giving them credit for. But Ohio State had its chances. If you would have told me at the beginning of before the game even started, that Julian Sain was going to throw for 258, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, Jeremiah would have 144 yards, that they would hold Indiana to like 118 yards rushing, that they would have held Indiana to 13 points total. I would have probably told you, and you would have said Ohio State gets 4 red zone trips. I would have told you, no doubt Ohio State walks away a winner in this. Ohio State had their chances. It was simply about converting it, which some of it was play calling. Some of it was just flat out Indiana playing great defense. We talked about the sacks, the 1 sack. I heard people arguing about
the grasp.
The one where they like had Sain, but he escaped.
They said
there
he was
a
in
face
the grasp,
mask on that anyways.
Correct. Thank you.
Whatever.
Okay.
We
don't completely hate you.
No, blow that one out.
Like, was there holding? Yeah. Ohio State, Indiana got away with a lot of holding. So did Ohio State. This happens every game.
There were some very blatantly obvious ones on both ends.
I don't disagree. But yes, thank you for pulling out the face mask thing, because that drove me nuts watching it.
Here's what I ultimately landed on after this game, because I was disgusted on Saturday night, most of Sunday.
Good.
It took me until early this morning before I actually watched like everything again. This game felt similar to how I felt after Oregon last year. And honestly, after the Michigan game.
Was it the 13-10 score that made you feel good?
No.
Okay.
How dare you?
Was it the shanked field goal in a 13-10 game?
It was when Ohio State walked off last year at Oregon. Despite the loss, I still looked at that and thought, we're still the better team. We played bad. We didn't deserve to win this time. We are still the better team. I felt the same way watching this game. Ohio State, to me, still has the better talent. It took Indiana's best effort to be able to win this game. Their defense had to play just spectacular. Ohio State played its worst offensive game of the season, partially due to Indiana's defense, but I think some of it was just egregious play calling. I feel confident in Ohio State's ability to still move forward, still get to the Natty. Should they have to play Indiana again in that, I would still like our chances in that.
I mean, I would go ahead.
I didn't walk away from this game doom and gloom like some Buckeye fans did, where they thought, "Oh man, we're just not ready." But I think that there's one major thing that needs to change before then, and I don't want to say it now, but there's one thing that I think desperately has to change for that to happen.
So let me jump in here then, and then I'm going to push you on that because I'd like to know what that thing is. Yeah, you're right. This is why people hate Ohio State fans.
That's fair. I knew it the second I thought it.
I saw former players talk. I saw Johnny Dixon talking about this. We beat ourselves, or the refs beat it. Like that is so old.
It's partially so true, but it's not, because like Indiana definitely played a part.
The idea, well, yeah, man, they're the number one team in the country. Indiana had to play their best game like they were below you. They had to like reach up, and Ohio State had to play their worst game, kind of like flop down. That's the way that maybe Indiana's just better. Maybe Indiana's just better because
I would agree with half of that.
You could cherry pick any stat you want, and you could say, well, if you told me that Indiana would outgain Ohio State, they'd outrush Ohio State, Charlie Becker of all people would have 130 passing yards. You'd hold Ohio State to 10. I'd say Indiana beat them. Yeah. Like, you can cherry pick whatever stats you want. The game flow was incredibly close. These two teams are neck and neck with each other. They both have really good defenses. You saw that on display. Mm-hmm. They both have really good offenses. You saw that on display with really good defenses. And that's what, again, Sayan didn't have a terrible game or anything like that.
21-29.
Mendoza didn't have a terrible game, obviously. Were either of them elite in one sense? I mean, in one sense, no. They both played good. And they were both very comparable. This was a margins game, and Indiana won the margins. In another matchup, Ohio State may win the margins, but the idea that Ohio State played down, Indiana had to play up to get, no, these are basically Spider-Man meme, and it was won in the margins. And so, like, it reminds me, because everything comes back to The Office, Ohio State fans are Andy Bernard in The Office. Ohio State does not lose contests, they win them, or they quit them because they are unfair. That's Ohio State fandom in a nutshell. By the way, I'll say this for Indiana, and then I want to come back to what has to change for Ohio State. Let's not forget also that, number one, before I even get there, when Mendoza goes down on the first play of the game, I didn't throw anything, but I wanted to throw the remote across the room. I was like, here's finally, as a Michigan guy, obviously I'm bitter about the loss to Ohio State, so I'd like someone else to do the dirty work for us, right?
Yeah.
And the first snap, I'm like, finally, here's a team that can challenge them. Let's go. They've got a Heisman caliber quarterback. First play, he's flat on the ground. I'm going, you have got to be kidding me. We're going to now watch a backup Indiana quarterback play in this game. And he's fine. So that disaster averted. But they played 90% of this game without Omar Cooper. Mm-hmm. So Charlie Becker, Elijah Surratt, without Omar Cooper, we're able to find some success. If you throw Omar Cooper back in that realm, whether you're playing Ohio State or anybody else in the playoff field, it's a dangerous team, man. It's a really dangerous team. And by the way, the call on third down to go deep to Becker reminded me of the Jeremiah Smith play, right?
Notre Dame.
Or even even the fourth down call against Michigan, where it's 4th and 5 or whatever, and say, we're going to trust our guy. Phenomenal. I mean, I said going into the Big Ten championship game that the weakness that I think nobody's talking about with Ohio State is I thought that I just still don't buy Igbinosun or Matthews. I thought they got beat a number of times in this game, including deep. It was a really gutsy call, and it was the right call. What has to change for Ohio State?
Yeah, I don't think that this is going to be a popular opinion at all, but I think it's Brian Hartline. Obviously, news breaking of him going to the University of South Florida to become the head coach. I thought last week, and you and I talked through this briefly, I thought last week was littered with distractions, and I think it reared its head.
Because the news broke midweek, which is not helpful when you record a podcast at the beginning of the week either.
Which meant he had been going and traveling to interview and doing the whole process. So I'm curious how much time he was actually able to devote to actually prepping and game planning for this. And I don't want that to sound like it's a total excuse, because I still think Indiana's defense just played a heck of a game. But I think that matters.
Yeah.
Then you throw in the whole Chris Henry situation where signing day happened. The news broke on signing day. And so all of a sudden you have this guy that's the number one recruit on your board, one of the top recruits in the nation, all of a sudden kind of iffy on whether he's going to come to your school. And you all of a sudden have to turn your attention away from prepping for this big game against the Indiana Hoosiers. And you're trying to make sure that you can keep this recruit. So Ryan Day is getting his efforts away from game planning and getting ready for this upcoming weekend. And he's trying to convince this guy to still come and play for him. And it took about 2 or 3 days for him to be able to go.
After he held off, I was surprised when he came back. Because I felt like if there was that much doubt, I wondered with the departure of Hartline, if that produced that much doubt in him, I wondered if he might not.
I don't know where I fully stand on that.
It's a huge get.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. I was very disappointed.
I think Ohio State still, and then I want to get back more on the Hartline thing. I still think Ohio State is still the best place to go if you're a receiver. I think Hartline obviously did a phenomenal job of recruiting. But let's not act like Ohio State wasn't producing top-tier NFL talent at receiver even before him. He was a part of it.
Sure.
So all the people that are like, wide receiver you is dead, we've had those guys well before him. So shut up.
But you feel like the Hartline distraction
thing
may have played in.
I think it played a huge role because you're looking at a guy that knows he's on the out, that he's a head coach. He's not going to be some assistant somewhere else. He's going to be the guy. And so I forget who ended up saying this, but I was reading more about this, and they brought up a really, really good point. This is a guy that knew he was about to become a head coach right on National Signing Day. You think he wasn't trying to sway some commits? He wasn't trying to get in touch with some guys to get them to go to USF and to follow him? You don't think his attention turned towards his duties there? And then you even saw like pictures of him in South Florida midweek going and signing the contract. Immediately following the loss to Indiana, you go and you see him on a private jet getting ready to be flown. Getting ready to be flown down for his introductory press conference. Granted, Ohio State has a good enough gap between the next game, but you're telling me
as a fan.
But you're telling me, I'm looking at this guy and I hate questioning it, but I'm going, how invested is he now in this program? Because he's out. He's no longer a Buckeye. And I know that's going to tick some people off because they love Brian Hartline. I want Brian Hartline to have success at USF. I want him to be great. Every time Ohio State plays him, if ever, I want him curb stomped into the ground. That's just what it is. He is no longer a part of the staff. He is not a Buckeye to me. The second that he did that, and we talked about it with Lane Kiffin, I wanted them to cut ties.
Really?
What good does it do? His attention to me, his attention, as it rightfully should be with USF. And I think you saw that. And I don't want this to sound like it's an excuse for last week, but I do think it played its hand. I think you saw Brian Hartline very distracted. I thought you saw Ryan Day having to pick up extra work that he doesn't typically have to do. And I think that played some portion of how their performance was offensively because the defense looked great. The defense was there. The defense is not why Ohio State, despite Charlie Becker having a phenomenal day, despite what the defense gave up towards the end of the game to help them run out the clock, the defense only gave up 13.
Yeah.
They had 2 chances where Indiana was deep and they held them to field goals. Yeah. Immediately following the interception from Sayin deep into Ohio State territory, they held them to 12 yards or something total on 6 plays. The defense was not the issue. The offense was the issue. The play calling was the issue. And I think that's mostly because Indiana's defense is good.
Yeah.
But I think a small portion of it, if everybody's being honest and not looking at it through Hoosier lens, then I think it's fair to say that you dealt with an unprepared, distracted Brian Hartline. And when you're getting ready to go in to a title run, where your focus needs to be on the team you're currently with, I don't trust that his mind is going to be with the Buckeyes. I just don't. I think he's going to be in South Florida. He's going to be trying to figure out where he's going to live. He's going to be trying to figure out how to move his family down there. He's going to be trying to figure out stuff with his coaching staff and players and all the other things that I don't even comprehend that come along with coaching, being the head coach of a college football program, because it's so much bigger than just going and holding practices now. Yeah. If he's going to be a good coach, his focus isn't going to be with the Buckeyes. And so I don't trust, despite everything he's done, I get what they're trying to do by not breaking up the rhythm. I don't think it's doing you any favors by keeping the guy around. And with you having as big of a gap as you can right now before your next game, I think it's vital that they just cut the ties, let him go be the head coach. They bring in somebody, maybe it's a promotion from the inside, somebody that kind of already knows the offense, that can actually focus their attention on it. I've seen people throwing around Keenan Bailey, the tight ends coach, as a name that they've talked about for a while now as getting a promotion up there. I don't think that it's a permanent slot. I think you still in the offseason go out there and you try to figure something else out. But you've got to get somebody in that building that lives and breathes Buckeye football for the next couple of weeks, not some guy that during game week at practices is repping the scarlet and gray, and then the next second he's flying to South Florida and taking his talents to wherever to be able to go and coach South Florida. It ain't going to work. If they decide to keep him on the staff, Ohio State will lose to either Texas A&M or Miami.
Your lips, God's ears, etc. Also, South Florida is in Central Florida, which makes no sense. It's in Tampa.
Who cares? Brian Hartline.
Brian Hartline does. Let's talk real quick, and we'll just kind of mention this. And if you're wondering, like, oh, are you going to preview this game right now? No. But let's at least touch on Michigan. Michigan gets the draw for the Citrus Bowl. That was the projection for weeks, was if they don't beat Ohio State, if they don't make the playoff, Citrus Bowl is probably where they're going to end up. They will. I believe the last time they played the Citrus Bowl was
Was that the South Carolina?
No. It was against Alabama. Maybe 2019. I'll have to look that up. Anyway, someone in the comments tell me what the last time we played in the Citrus Bowl. I think it was against Mac Jones in Alabama. But regardless, so Michigan gets the Citrus Bowl, and there was a little bit of variance on would it be Texas? There was thought that it could be Vanderbilt. It ends up being Texas, which, I mean, let's be honest, that's the money draw, right?
Yeah.
This is, at least this one I can go, yeah, this makes sense. Unlike last year where it was, hey, I think it's the ReliaQuest Bowl now. It used to be the Outback Bowl. But hey, we're going to take 7-5 Michigan. They're going to play the first team out of the playoff, Alabama, which worked out, I guess, at the end of the day for Michigan. But a good draw against Texas. It should be a nice matchup. The question, of course, is going to be who even plays in this game. That's one of the reasons, by the way, that we're not previewing this game right now. Yeah. This will be a New Year's Eve game. I believe it's mid-afternoon. Ohio State will play their playoff game later that night. So good news for all members of the rivalry. New Year's Eve and New Year's Day going to be an absolute blast, as it always is. But Michigan gets Texas. Will you see Arch Manning? I don't know. It's way too early to tell.
But I would be surprised.
I think you said, would you see Bryce? Yes.
You think?
100%.
I think so too, but I wouldn't be surprised.
The guys that will opt out are guys that are either injured or are going to the league. If you're coming back next year, you're not opting out. So, Bryce ain't going anywhere. Jordan Marshall, Sherrone already said, Sherrone had a press conference I don't know if it was a press conference, but a media availability yesterday. Sark had one right after his, where Sherrone said, yeah, Jordan Marshall should be good to play in the bowl game, which again, tells you that my guess is that if you're coming back, you're playing in this game, especially because Marshall had been dinged up. People asked Sherrone about Justice Haynes playing in the game. He was very non-committal. You are not going to see Justice Haynes play in that game, even if he's healthy, because he's either going to the league or you're going to make sure he rehabs well enough to come back.
He's going to the league.
And honestly, either way is fine. Would I love for him to come back? Of course I would. But regardless, next year, you will, even if you don't have Justice Haynes for Michigan, you will have Jordan Marshall and Savion Hyder signed on National Signing Day, 5-star running back, top running back in the class. That's a huge get for Michigan. So there is a world where you have Haynes, Marshall, and Hyder in the same room, even if you don't have all three. I mean, it's Michigan at running back just continues to reload. They got a great flip from Georgia and Marchese. Georgia commit flip, 4-star wide receiver flip to Michigan. A good National Sign Day for the Wolverines. This isn't a recruiting podcast, so that's why I don't know how to pronounce that kid's name, but he seemed good. The other thing I want to touch on real quick for Michigan, just so that's not an entire Ohio State podcast because gross, is Michigan fires J.B. Brown, special teams coordinator, who did absolutely nothing. See ya. And in replacing him,
another guy that did absolutely nothing.
Kerry Coombs is back in. This is actually a great hire for Michigan.
Sure.
This is a great hire for Michigan. Knows how to develop players. I don't want him calling the defense, but this is a really good pickup for Michigan, which leads then to the question, what about Wink Martindale? And when Sherrone was asked that, I'm just going to read the transcript from yesterday. So they were asking about, someone had asked about Kerry Coombs joining the staff, and do you anticipate any other staff changes? So this is, again, a media press Zoom availability thing, okay? And Sherrone said, yeah, Kerry's here, starting to work, blah, blah, blah. He said he is here. As far as other staff changes, not as of yet. Okay, it sounds positive. Someone pressed him on it later, though, and said, you said about the coaching, if there's going to be any more changes. I think you said not at this time. Do you mean like you are not expecting any more, or just, and he said, no, I'm not. Here's what I'll say on this, because people have taken this and said, oh my goodness, Wink Martindale is going to be back for another year. Oh, the humanity. Okay. Number one, what he was asked was, I think you said not at this time. Are you not expecting any more? And he said, no, I'm not basically he's saying, no, I'm not expecting any more guys to transition out, whatever. What do you want him to say in this press conference?
Yeah.
Do you want him to go, hey, is there going to be other changes? And then just smile at the camera, office style.
Yeah,
what do you want him to say?
I want him to do that. That would be hilarious.
Wink's watching in his office going, hey, what? And he goes, yeah, you know what? Wink Martindale is trash, and he's been trash, and he's gone.
Do it for the Vine. Let's go.
He's not going to do that. Is there a chance that Michigan retains Wink? Yeah, of course there's a chance. Do I think they will? No, I do not. And frankly, maybe getting blown out by Tech. I don't want this to happen, so no one go nuts about this. But maybe Arch Manning playing that game and lighting up Wink's defense because Michigan doesn't play any of their starters. Not that with Wink it matters because he rotates in whoever he wants
hope
anyway.
That happens so we can run the clip of you saying you'd rather him than Underwood this year because. Man, I would just play that on loop.
I'm sure you already are. You already are.
TV beside us would have nothing but that on a loop.
So all I would say for Michigan fans is don't read too much into, hey, he didn't publicly say I'm going to fire Wink Martindale to a pool of reporters on Zoom.
No.
He's not going to tell me over Zoom that he's firing Wink Martindale before he tells him.
Some of the stuff that I've seen reporters asking, there was actually, and this isn't college football, it's NFL, but it was after the Browns lost yesterday and they're talking to Shedeur Sanders about the 2-point conversion play. And they were like, was that a play that you guys practiced? And he goes, no, we ran a play that didn't work in practice. Like, what are you asking? Yeah. What are these people asking?
This is the same. And I took flack on this from the Ohio State beat. I don't care. In 2023, when Michigan was it was either heading into the Rose Bowl or heading into the national championship game. And a reporter decided to ask players, hey, basically, and I'm summarizing here, it was basically, hey, if you win this thing on Monday night, is this thing tainted by the whole Stallions thing? What kind of a question is that? Like you can think whatever, and
it
obviously you know the thoughts that I have on Stallions, and I'm sure everyone knows the thoughts you have too. That is an asinine question.
Oh yeah,
to ask a player heading into that game. That is absolutely ridiculous. My point in bringing that up is you're exactly right. Our job in the media is to ask questions. I get that. Don't take the answers that we get too seriously. That's what I would say on that. Stupid Genius Upset Pick of the Week, brought to you by the Ohio Sinus Institute. There's no, I mean, I think it's wrapped up for the year, isn't it?
I think it is. Until we get to bowl season, we can have a little bit of fun. We could do like
maybe tweak.
We can do like
we'll
guess our bowl predictions, and then we can go that way and see like we'll do a part 2 of this because I won the regular season.
You did
for
handily.
Stupid Genius. I think it ended up being 36-6 or something like that.
I got one upset pick right this year.
I got a few.
You actually did.
I was pretty decent.
You were usually off.
I was batting like 300, which ain't bad.
It's pretty impressive. Maybe we'll do some sort of Bowl Mania Super Genius thing. Army Navy is this weekend. Can I make an admission real quick about Army Navy?
Yeah.
I know this is supposed to be like classic college football, America's game. I don't care.
Will you still watch it? Yes.
I mean,
yes,
maybe
you will.
Maybe.
I can answer it for you.
I might not.
Will.
And listen, we've got good friends over at Blue and Gold Report on Twitter. Go follow them. Navy football account. I don't care about this game. I'll cheer for Navy. I'll cheer for Navy for the boys at Blue and Gold. My sister's in the Army. I'm going to cheer for Navy here. Don't tell her that, okay? But I don't care about I don't care about this game. I don't care about this game. However, and maybe this is where people are going to, light me on fighter for this. Boise State, Washington, I'll watch on Saturday night.
I'm going to watch both of them. And I've got family coming in from a different country that I've never even met. And I'm going to be spending
Sounds like a different podcast. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, bowl season opens up Saturday night. So like, don't forget that. I also think Celebration Bowl, South Carolina State might be, and Prairie View A&M might be on Saturday too. You know what? Forget it. I'll watch all of them. I'll watch all of them because any college football this time of year is good college football. FCS playoffs are still going on. Did you see Illinois State upset North Dakota State, the number one seed, in their own building?
Yeah.
Go Birds, man.
Crazy.
Go Birds. They played Oklahoma decently well in the first week of the season. That's all I know.
Hats off to you for playing a close game. Where's that trophy in the trophy case? You played a close game.
We almost always win.
almost win.
Yikes. Enjoy whatever college football you're watching because, again, any college football is good college football. Support the pod. Subscribe to the podcast. Follow us on social media at RivalPod. The Rivalry Podcast is part of the Varsity Network from Learfield and the River Podcast Network from River Radio Ministries.
New episodes out every Monday.
Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening right now, and follow on social media at RivalPod and RivalPod.com.
And if you like what you hear, share with a friend so they can listen too.